Welcome to the Leader Impact Podcast. We are a community of leaders dedicated to optimizing our personal, professional, and spiritual lives to have impact. This show is where we have a chance to listen and engage with leaders from around the world who are living this out. We love talking with leaders, so if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions to make this show even better, please let us know. The best way to stay connected is through our newsletter at leaderimpact.ca or on social media at LeaderImpact. I'm your host, Lisa Peters, and our guest today is Howard Olsen. As the founder of High Output Sales Training, Howard is driven to inspire and empower small to medium enterprises with purposeful vision and practical roadmaps they can easily learn and immediately apply to generate predictable revenue, friction-free, with truth, trust, and integrity. Having closed more than $1 billion in personal sales to companies like HP, Motorola, Dell, and Airbus, while leading the global sales team, Howard discovered he was just as good at coaching sales as he was at negotiating them. He has empowered tens of thousands of entrepreneurs and corporate sales teams to amplify their message, bolster their confidence, and solidify their sales and leadership results. Howard now leverages his expertise as a leading sales trainer, master communicator, and professional speaker to help business owners and sales professionals equip themselves with the skills they need to shorten their sales cycles and raise their revenues through proven, natural, and repeatable communication processes, ultimately taking the stress out of making it happen. So join us now for a conversation with Howard Olsen about the power of words in your personal, professional, and spiritual lives. Welcome to the show, Howard.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for having me, Lisa. We always have animated conversations, so I've been looking forward to this one.
I am too. It has been, and it's funny because COVID sort of blanks out 2 years in my life, but I think it's been 5 years since we've actually been in the same room together.
Yeah, it's about that, easily.
Yeah. I was very privileged to take speaker training from you for a weekend in Winnipeg, and it was a good weekend. Just a lot of self-discovery. Let's say that.
Yeah, for all of us, I think it was a powerful weekend. Yeah, for sure.
It was awesome. So thank you again for joining us. I'm looking forward to the next minutes, hour, however long we have. But for our listeners, I've told them a little bit about you, of what I know. But you, tell us a little bit about your personal life, yourself.
Oh, well, my name, I'm Howard Olsen. I live here in Vancouver. Haven't always been here, but this is the longest I've lived anywhere. I started my journey as a little toddler in Toronto and moved down to Fort Lauderdale. I actually grew up in Miami. Went to high school down there, came back, got a business degree at University of Western Ontario, and from there took off, started traveling the world, worked with a little company called DHL, worked with their parent company, and that's how I got into the sales game, and that literally took me all over the world. I started as a rep in Toronto, and after a few years there, I got a phone call from the headquarters in Switzerland, basically saying, hey, we need somebody to spearhead North American activities throughout Greater China. So 3 weeks later, I kissed my girlfriend goodbye, sold my car to my neighbor, and I was living in Hong Kong. And that started an incredible journey where I like to say that I got to dance on some of the biggest boardroom tables on this planet. And shortly into that part of my career, I got recruited to an even larger organization and became their global account director, ultimately vice president of sales. And from there, found myself woven back here into Vancouver. So I've been studying sales and leadership and the power of influence. Really, it's really the science of influence, positive influence, not manipulated influence, but social fluency, really. And so that's been kind of the highlight and the story of my career. And communication is where it's at. And that's how we ended up getting together and working on speaker training. I've just discovered that I can help people craft their words, whether in sales, negotiations, or even addressing an audience from the podium.
Yeah, I love that part of your introduction. Just, you realize you're great at sales, but you're even better at teaching people how to make the sales.
Yeah.
And to transition that to such a successful career, because I have followed you, and it's amazing. So congratulations on that transition. You. It's really good. So anything more about your personal life you want to share? Let's get right into your.
Well, I'm a pretty open book. I tell everybody I'm pretty transparent. If I got a secret or a hidden agenda, it's because I don't know where it is. So I'm not sure what you might want to know. One of the things that I do, I also MC events. And so I always interview whoever the speaker is going to be. And I always throw a curveball question at him at the pre-event interview. And I say, so what's one thing about you that very few people know that you'd be comfortable sharing? And I put that into my introduction. And so I've heard all kinds of crazy things over the years. But one of the things about me, I actually ran the Harley Club of Hong Kong, and I sang in a rock band in Hong Kong for a number of years. So there's a little tidbit that you may not have known about me. And three three summers ago, before all this COVID stuff came, I actually I got a couple of Harleys, and I rode one all the way from Vancouver. We started the Pacific Ocean, took it all the way across to the East Coast, around the Great Lakes, down the St. Lawrence River Basin, ended up at PEI, around Nova Scotia, and back again. 18,000 kilometers in 4 weeks. And man, what a great way to see this magnificent country that we live in.
Yeah. Now, did you do that with a group of Harley Davidson people?
No, it was just it was my wife and I. We were invited to a wedding in Winnipeg, and so we decided to ride the Harley out there. And we shipped our wedding clothes out to Winnipeg to meet us, so we could just hang out in t-shirts and jeans. And then as we were planning that trip, I actually realized that Winnipeg is almost dead center between Vancouver and Ottawa, where I have two brothers. And I said, well, if we're going to go to Winnipeg, let's go see my brothers. And then I looked at Michaela, who's German, my wife, and I said, you've never actually seen the rest of this country. She goes, no. I said, well, as long as we're going to go to Ottawa, we might as well go to PEI, and let's go. So on day 21, I dropped her off at Halifax Airport, put her in a plane, and then I boogied back. I dropped her off on Sunday morning at noon, and I said, I'll see you Friday for dinner. She said, no way. And I said, I'll be home for dinner Friday night. And there I was.
Ride the open road.
Oh. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, that's a good story.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about a bike. Is it my age? I'm not sure. Anyway, so we're going to switch a little over to your professional life. I don't know if there's anything more you want to share about your career move once you move back to Canada and what you've been doing lately, because I have lots of questions about what you do, because I have followed you. But since moving back to Canada, what are you doing? What are you doing now?
Well, I'm doing lots of things. I mean, I've got my fingers into lots of different pies. Obviously, I've still got my training and consulting business, so I still run training programs. And a little slowly but surely, the live kind of events in boardrooms and in hotels, that's starting to come back. But the majority of it is online now. But I've spent a lot of time figuring out how to pivot and how to transition to make things that used to work in a hotel room when you're live pressing flesh, how to make that work through a camera. And so I spent a lot of time really focusing on that. I'm doing that. In the meantime, I'm doing consulting with a number of companies, helping them work out their strategic planning. And the latest thing since the last time I talked to you, I think when we set this up, since then, we've actually planted a brand new church, and now they call me Pastor Howard in addition to all those other things. And I would have, if somebody would have told me 6 months ago they'd be calling me pastor, I would have thought I'm crazy. And now I'm actually even hosting a national daily prayer call over this nation called Decree for Canada. And I've got at least there's hundreds of people that show up, but at least a dozen pastors who now call me their pastor. And that to me is just mind blowing. But so I've got my fingers into all kinds of things. I'm plenty busy. I'm a senior pastor at a church, and I'm still doing consulting and interviews like this, and I'm having more fun than I've ever had.
Oh, it's funny. We talk about how we transitioned, and I know that you're a pretty big personality. Like, I have seen you in action, in person, and all that action that comes across in person, right? That body language. How do you do it? Like, did you take a lesson? To transition to video, it's not the same, Howard, right?
Well, I mean, the thing about working in a room and working with an audience, I think people either have a natural aptitude to those things or they don't. So listen, I'll go back to the speaker training that we did together. Like, I remember when we launched the first Leader Impact speaker training program. Several of us, together with Nathan Hildebrandt, went into Kenya to run a pilot program. And I remember sitting in the restaurant one night, the night before the opening night, and there was a local Kenyan guy, very well dressed. Obviously, he was either a political figure or a business figure. He was somebody of significance in that community. It was clear. And so he asked what we were doing there, and I said, "Well, I'm running a speaker training program for some of your governmental leaders." He says, "Do you think you can teach anyone to speak?" And I said, some people have natural aptitudes toward these things, and some people will naturally be good communicators with an audience. But one thing for sure, when you teach the intentionality and you can focus on the things that make a good speech, I can take a poor speaker and give them some competency, and I can take a competent speaker and raise them. And so I've just always had an awareness of the things that I'm doing, and then I've kind of learned how to backward plan things so that I can transfer them to someone else, whether that's in sales or in leadership issues or communications. Just, even a thing like this, just look at how we're communicating now. I mean, I should be making eye contact with you the majority of the time, even though, we're on a camera. I think about these things. Like, I've got my camera sitting on a tripod at eye level so that even though, we're in different rooms, I can give the appearance that I'm making. And I'm not faking anything. I'm genuinely concerned with this because I understand that it creates an environment, whether you're standing live in an audience. If you're having a conversation across the table at Starbucks, you want to look them in the eye. Well, if you're on a camera, think about this. You want to be able to look them in the eye. So, yeah, I think I've always had a natural gravitation to paying attention to these sorts of things and sharing what I've been conscious of with others. I think that's probably the best way to say it.
Well, obviously you have, because in my, research or whatever called stalking your website, I found a video of you. Actually, it wasn't a view. It was people saying how much they loved your course. And there was a woman on there, and I apologize, I can't remember. I just was one of your videos. She got emotional at what she had learned and what she was taking away and how it had helped her, or she had already made a phone call. It was, I got verklempt. It was really good. And it was just a video was put on her, and it was like, what do you think? How did you think of the seminar? So that was really good. And it was a good post. So made me feel good.
I'm Thanks, delighted Howard. That carried through. Yeah, it's pretty real. It's pretty genuine,
Yeah, so. It was. So my first question for you was, you make a living talking to other people, sales training, keynotes. And I'm sure you talk to people you like, you dislike, you agree, you disagree, I don't know, on every level. But you still have, I shouldn't say but, and you still have a positive conversation with them. So my question is, what do you feel makes a great conversation?
I tell everybody, I think it really means to go into a conversation with insatiable curiosity. Just go in with insatiable curiosity, right? I think sometimes the conclusions we jump to begin with the assumptions we start with. And as we all know, assumptions are most of the time wrong. And everybody says that a coin has two sides. Actually, a coin has three sides. It's got a head, a tail, and an edge. And most people miss the edge and don't even look at the other side of the thing. And so, yeah, there's lots of people I'll talk to that I may not agree with. But, at the end of the day, the minute you harness this, and I'll talk to whoever's watching this video right now, is watching this interview between the two of us. I would say this: go into every engagement, understanding that everyone you're talking to is actually no different than you. Every human being on this planet, now get this, hungers to be heard, but more than be heard, hungers to be profoundly understood. Not just understood. They want to be heard and they want to be understood. They want to be profoundly understood. And when I got a revelation of this, that it's to be loved is wonderful, but to be understood is profound. That's you, that's me. And when you'll just take the time and just sometimes you got to bite your tongue and sit on your hands, just ask a question and let them answer it. Because once they've heard that you've heard, once they understand that you understand, a lot of the friction in the conversation can now be mitigated because false assumptions on both sides of the thing have disappeared. I'll give you this example. You ever had a conversation with someone knowing full well that you were just going to agree to disagree? We've all had them, right? Yes. But we've also had conversations where somebody began disagreeing with what we were saying or started giving advice on what we were beginning to say, and we hadn't even finished the thought yet. That leaves you with an angst and a discomfort. You say, wait a minute, you're not in a position to begin disagreeing. If you disagree with me, I'm okay with that. But at least let me finish the thought so that you know what it is that you're disagreeing with. Because if you just disagree before I finish my thought, you're not qualified to disagree. And that's what I'm feeling, right? You understand what I'm saying? Yes. Well, this is what's happening with pretty much every one of our stakeholders. So you go into a meeting with a bunch of assumptions. Listen, just shut up and listen to them. It's just that simple.
There you have it.
Right. So to soften that language, go in with an insatiable curiosity. Look at the head, look at the tail, and look at the entire side. Get a 360 on it. And now you're in a position to have a decent conversation. And even if you two are disagreeing on a matter, the fact that you've heard each other out, now we can come to a place, okay, now there's mutual respect in that. And now it's not a friction-filled conversation anymore, most of the time. Now, there's exceptions to everything, of course.
Yeah. It reminds me of an interview I did for another show. It was called Crucial Conversations in COVID, and having those COVID conversations with your family. And you are
Yeah.
saying exactly what she said. You can't go in with your assumptions because you don't know
Yeah.
whatever if you're vaccinated or not vaccinated. And this is a big thing with families right now.
Well, it's
So
huge.
not only in the corporate world, your advice just lands exactly what I need to hear as well. So
Well, I always
good.
get put in the sales box. He's the sales guy, he's the sales trainer guy. But listen, John Maxwell said that leadership is nothing more than positive influence with people. And I've always said that selling really is nothing more than positive influence with people. And people get this idea that selling is a transactional activity. No, we're selling ideas. We sell to our kids, we sell to our spouses. CEOs sell their strategic initiatives to their board of directors. Administrative assistants sell ideas on how to make an office environment more productive. Now, that's not transactional. It's just the delivery and receipt of information. That's what selling at the end of the day is. And sometimes there's a dollar amount attached to it, but it's always about the transmission and receipt of information. It's leadership.
Yeah. All right. Well, this might lead into my next question. There is a Meet Howard Olsen video on your YouTube, and it's a great video. And in one of your last statements, it says, "I'm not in the sales and training business. I'm in the hope and encouragement business." So I ask you, how do you use hope and encouragement in sales training?
That's a great question. I never thought about that, but
You said it.
I did say. Well, I did say because it's true. Listen, here's the
Yeah.
thing. There are four things today that they never teach in school anymore. They don't teach social fluency. I mean, they don't teach human interaction skills in school. They don't teach about money. More and more, they're not even teaching the truth anymore. I mean, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole here, right? There's all kinds of things going on, and they certainly don't teach sales and leadership and communication and commerce skills. And so I've seen over the years, even people that have got MBAs in business programs, entrepreneurs. The one thing that they always struggle with, they have great ideas, but they don't know how to commercialize them. And so the problem with traditional sales training and all kinds of other trainings is theory only leaves you with theory. But if I can get in there, understand where they are, get into their heart, get into their mind, and then put some practical application underneath that. So give them a process that they can repeat and then put some coaching on that so that they actually know how to harness the very thing that they just used. I can walk them out of a training environment equipped, not just understanding an idea, but having taken relevant practice and experience, how to apply it in the real world so that they can carry it into their lives. And because they gained confidence in the midst of a training program and they were encouraged in that, so not just process, not just skills. So we give them the skills, we give them the mindset, but we can give you what to, why to, but more importantly, we got to give you how to. And then when we can help you practice the how to, you have the courage to go out and try it. And because you tried it, it works. And because it works, you try it again, and we can begin to spin up a self-fulfilling cycle of success. And so that's what I say by hope and courage. I blow hope and courage all over them while overlaying it with skills and mindset. So it's a mindset, it's a skill set, and then the encouragement to go, come on, go. And then we literally get in behind them. And I've seen people just, they've been struggling with revenue or struggling with client acquisition or whatever it is, and turn literally on a dime because nobody ever taught them this. And that's all they really need. What to, why to, and how to, with a bit of encouragement to give and try it. And so, with a bit of hope, with a bit of encouragement, we can set them on the path to successfulness.
That just takes me right back to that video of that woman. That's exactly what she was talking about, was the hope and encouragement, and that she felt that from you. So you exactly mark on there. So what do you think is unique about you that, you or your business?
Well, my wife says there's only one of me, and the world is very thankful. So yeah, it's true. So, listen, we're all unique critters, right? We're all very unique characters. But I mean, when you look at it from a training perspective or a business perspective, I think it comes right down to what I just previously said. I think there's lots of training. Listen, the last major corporation I worked for before taking off the golden handcuffs was a $45 billion company, and I was essentially number 3 inside that company. When you're operating at that kind of capacity, dealing with the kind of clients that I was dealing with, and thousands of sales reps across the planet. I've been through virtually every single training program you can imagine. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of all of it. I've seen the stuff that I've rejected, the stuff that I accepted, and the things that, okay, that needs to be tweaked, but I think I can weave that in. That makes sense. But at the end of the day, after all the training that I've seen, there's a lot of companies out there will tell you what to do, and there's a lot of companies out there to tell you why you should do it. Very few excel at showing you how. And I think that is really the unique identifier for what we do. We are all about practical application, and I'm firmly committed to this. I'll say this to anyone. If you don't know how to do something better by the time I'm done, I don't want to begin. Everything I'm about is making sure that you can do that I know and you know that you can do this. Now, can and will are different things. But I know that by the time I finish my work with you, you are fully equipped mentally, physically, spiritually, and ready to go so that you can get out there and do it. Now, the only question is, will you take that encouragement and now go and apply what you have learned? But I make sure you know how. I know for sure that I will not quit speaking and whispering into your ear until I'm convinced that you know how to get this done. And I think that's a big differentiator.
Which takes me right into my next question, because you are a man of words. Your words flow, and they flow with passion and understanding, and I just find myself drawn in. So my next question is about words with you. So that's funny how this happens. It's meant to happen. So there's a section on your high output training systems website, and you've written, "Content is king, but delivery still matters. With Howard, you get both." So let's talk about content, because the words you use matter. Words matter. That's 2 words. Words matter.
Words matter.
What advice would you give to listeners about the words you speak?
Shatter every inkling toward using negative language patterns. Get rid of them altogether. All right, let me give you an example. All right, so I don't want to get all overly scriptural or anything here, but listen, let's just go here for a moment. May I go here for a moment?
Yes, you may, Howard.
All right, so listen, if whoever's watching this podcast, I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know where your spirituality is at. I don't know what you believe, and I don't know what you don't believe. But let's just go here for a second. If you go to the first book of the Bible, it says, "In the beginning, God said, light be," and He just spoke the whole thing into existence. A couple chapters later, we learn that we're created in His image. Okay, which means that He's given us this same creative power. How do we create things? We create things through the power of the spoken word. Like, I want you to just run a little exercise right now. I want you to think a thought. Put your hand on your forehead and think a thought. Can you feel it?
I can.
No,
feel
you can't feel
my hands are.
Now, thoughts are things. There is energy attached to a thought, and as a man thinketh, so he becomes. But now, speak it. Okay, speak it. Light be, and you instantly feel the vibrational energy of what comes out of your mouth. And so we literally create. The words that we speak literally create what we go walking into. And, I see people, I've seen over the years, there's disempowering words and empowering words. And, Tony Robbins has done a lot of stuff on this, but Harvard proves it. The Bible proves it. All of these things that when you literally speak into existence, the very thing which comes forth. Like empowering words would be things like, I can, I will, I choose to. Like, I can. I'm going to go into this meeting and I'm going to give my customer my best shot. I'm going to go in there and I'm really going to see if I can turn this thing around. Where other people go, this is going nowhere. I can't do that. And you literally, now listen, the subconscious mind is constantly recording what the conscious mind has just done and then anchors it. And this is one of the ways that we literally create our reality. So if you don't like the picture of what you got, just start speaking different words. I'll give you another scripture that just supports this whole thing. There's a word, it says, that life and death, now catch this, life and death are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat the fruit of it. So what is it? It's the power of the tongue. Now, it doesn't distinguish between positive words or negative words. Okay, so we've all heard the expression, "I am what I eat." All right, so you can eat healthy food and you're a healthy being, and you can eat unhealthy food and you're an unhealthy being. Well, this scripture says, that life and death are in the power of the tongue, and whoever loves it will eat the fruit of it. So if you start speaking negative words, you will eat the fruit of that. If you start speaking positive words, you'll eat the fruit of that. And so from this day forward, here's what I encourage you to do. I am what I eat, and I will only speak what I want to eat. If I don't like what I got today, I'm going to start speaking what I want to see tomorrow, because quite literally what I speak today creates the tomorrow I walk into. You are in control. of what you go into. Use your words wisely. And I spent a lot of time actually in workshops and even with close personal friends correcting their language patterns. Because listen, you're creating it. You want a different kind of outcome? Speak a different kind of outcome.
Yep. Wow. My heart just feels, I just feel lightened. And I don't know what it was you said. I could just feel this, the I will, just the language we're using, because sometimes I fall back and I may not use the positive language I should. And
Can we stay here for a
eating
moment?
my words. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So like I hear people saying all the time, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't play guitar, I can't find this. Cut it out. I haven't found it yet. I can't negotiate I can't negotiate with that I have so far not been able to negotiate with those guys, but I'm going to give it my best try. Get that word I can't. So listen, I can, I will, I am, I choose. Those are empowering words. Those are words that put you in the driver's seat. And I'm not talking about manipulative driver's seat. I'm talking about giving you about the self-confidence to move forward and actually cause something to happen. And the language itself actually takes you there because your brain is recording it and you're creating an energetic field on yourself. And if you're talking negative word patterns and you don't even recognize it, you're actually creating that cloud of negativity around you. So I'll hear people saying, well, I should. I'll try to. I'll try. I should. I need to. Those are disempowering words because you've just given yourself an excuse not to go, well, I should. Quit shoulding on me. Quit shoulding. Cut the should.
Shooting.
Cut the should. Okay? Listen, I will.
I
I
love that.
can. I'm able. And so just shift it around. Like I had a conversation with a good buddy of mine named Steven Dinazin yesterday. And he says, and he wants to play guitar. He says, I can't play guitar. I said, all right, do you want to play the guitar? He says, I absolutely want to play the guitar. I said, okay. So far, I'm unable to play the guitar, but I'm working on it. Just get that can't out of your vernacular. And I've worked with executives, I've worked with entrepreneurs, and I've worked with sales teams. And I'll go out and I'll actually go ride shotgun with them in a car, and I'll hear them say things like, this is going to go nowhere. I said, no, this is going somewhere. Go in and give them your best shot. Change the language. Because if you tell yourself before you even go there, it's going to go nowhere, you have just convinced your mind to make that thing go nowhere. Change your language, change your world. It really is. It sounds cliche, but there's a tremendous amount of truth to it. There's creative energy in every single word we speak. Speak the words that create the future you want to walk into.
So I have to ask you, when the pandemic hit, a while ago, and you had to transition, what were the words you used to yourself? Or like, what happened to you? How did you transition? And what has been your COVID bonus? What have you learned from the pandemic?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a multifaceted question. There's lots of pieces. There's lots of moving parts on that question.
I don't even know what I asked.
Well, I know what you
Where do
asked.
you start?
I'll piece it together. So, first of all, what were you thinking? What were you speaking when the pandemic hit? Well, I tell you, I'm just like you. I mean, I know that you have an events business also. So I don't have an events planning business, but I'm the subject matter that events planners like you hire to fill their events and bring content and value to the audience. And I'll tell you what, I work in hotel, I work with companies, I work with associations, and all that kind of stuff. And I speak on stages all over the world. And I tell you, with one snap of a finger, 18 months of calendar got wiped out. My entire business got zero balanced in a day. It was like, oh man, what am I going to do now? Wow.
Right there with you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just began thinking about that. It's okay. It wasn't instant, but I began reflecting on it. And I had always said that I wanted to do more online events to leverage the power of technology. And I am, listen, the only reason I'm capable of speaking and teaching people about the power of words is because I'm constantly teaching myself. I said, oh man, for years I've been talking about going online and creating online content. And I always had an excuse not to do it. I was busy with this or busy with that. And, the onslaught of this C-19 thing just really, it forced my hand. And so I basically, I locked myself into a room for a couple of months and just said, okay, I'm going to reverse engineer this. And I really thought about the live environments that I go into. Okay, what I do live will work on a camera and what will not work through a camera? What will work in a Zoom room and not work in a Zoom room? And so I basically dissected it, I reassembled it, and I thought, okay, I need to to test this out on some clients. So I took a couple of the clients that had actually canceled because all the events had been canceled. And I said, listen, I've retweaked all of this. I actually believe that I can pull this off online and make it just as good, if not better, than if we were live. Would you like to be a beta tester? So I gave them heavily discounted rates so that I could try it. And the first one, it was good. I had thought about a lot of the combinations and permutations of things that I needed to consider, but I discovered some things that didn't quite work well. So I said, oh, great. And they got a great deal and they got great value for what happened. Everybody walked away tooled up, but I learned how to make the program better. So I called another client. Hey, I've just tweaked it again. You want to try it? And so I took them through it. And by the time I got through 3 passes of this, I really had a very well dialed in program. And I actually believe my online program is better than my live program now. Well, when I say live, they're all live. They're not recorded, but they're spontaneous like this. But because I got very intentional getting formulaic about what to take out and what to put in that will work through a camera, I've got this thing dialed into the perfect formula now that I can deliver in bite-sized chunks. So it's with a training session once a week and a coaching and follow-up session once a week until we run through the entire program. And so I would say what the pandemic has actually been an incredible blessing to me, because it forced me to do the thing that I had consistently found reason not to. And now that I've done it, my business is bigger, my reach is wider, and all of the logistics constraints. Because a lot of times people want to hire you, but then there's then you got hotels and you got planes and you got venues and catering and all of that has been taken out of the equation now, right? So that when we start talking fee, I don't have those discussions anymore.
Yeah, my job.
Yeah, that's your job.
That is, and but same thing. Like I found the COVID bonus, as you did, and I think a lot of people. I love the fact of the reach. Like you can speak to how many people in how many countries tomorrow. Yeah. Like you could be in Germany tomorrow, and you could be. Absolutely, it's amazing.
And Australia and Indonesia, right, all at the same time.
All at the same time.
And we've done it. And we've done it. It's incredible. Yeah. So it's there's a blessing in everything if you're willing to look for it.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. That's a great comment, because there is. You have to look for it. You have to work hard for it. So we're going to switch a little bit now to your spiritual side and your journey. So I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about your spiritual journey. Where did it start, or tell us about it? Maybe.
That's a loaded question.
Uh-oh.
Well, I say that only because you mentioned earlier that video that's on YouTube called "Meet the Howard Olsen That You Didn't Know," and if I tell this story, I could probably crank 45 minutes out of it. I won't do that here, but, and you can go watch that video on YouTube, which we got down to about 7 minutes. Actually filmed at a Leader Impact event in Toronto. Unscripted, unplanned. I was teaching. I was doing a training program on something else, and the film crew just came up and said, "Hey, you open to doing an interview?" And I went, "Sure." What? I had no idea what they're going to ask me, and that video was what came out, and it's totally spontaneous. None of it was scripted. But yeah, listen, I grew up in I would say that I grew up in a very conservative home, but we didn't go to church. We didn't, I didn't know anything. I mean, I believed that there was a God. There was something bigger than me that figured out how to make it rain and purify water and birds and bees and sperm and eggs. And okay, there's something smarter than us that created all of this. Okay, but that was the extent of my spiritual awakening and journey. But I had a pretty good life. I went up the corporate ladder pretty quick. I would actually say by the time I was in my early 30s, I'd probably done more, seen more, traveled more countries, and made more money than most people will in an entire lifetime. And then we moved here to Vancouver, and I was brought back with the company I'd been with for years. I went through a merger. The CEO got fired. I landed. I basically packed up 2 containers in Australia, one full of cars and motorcycles, the other one full of household stuff. Put them on the ocean, hopped in a plane, came to Vancouver, landed on a Saturday. I had dinner with a friend Saturday night. I bought a car on Sunday. I bought a house on Monday. And on Tuesday, I got fired. I hadn't even been to the office yet. And I go, wow, welcome to Vancouver. Right. And I didn't care. I wasn't, to say I didn't care would be inaccurate, but I was unconcerned. I had a pretty good career, had a pretty good track record, and I had a pretty good reputation in the industry. But what I didn't realize that all the years that I'd been in Asia, nobody in North America knew who I was anymore, and they didn't care. And Vancouver, actually, even though it's pretty much regarded as a big city, it's not. This is a village. This is not a headquarter town. And what I didn't realize is I had a headquarter type resume, and nobody out here. I couldn't find any work. And we went through the process of losing everything. We lost everything. 2 years of tomorrows. Okay, I'll find a job tomorrow. I'll find a job tomorrow. I'll find something tomorrow. And after 2 years of tomorrows with a big house and a car full of garages and a garage full of cars and motorcycles and lifestyle, and Doesn't take long till you lose everything, and and I'm not going to go through that whole journey, but I ended up finding some work, and I just severely mistreated by 3 companies in succession, and I went to a place of depression. And I wanted to end my life. I began to believe that at the age of 35, I was a washed up has been that had seen his best years. And again, the subconscious mind is constantly recording what the conscious mind is doing. And I began speaking, "You're a loser. You're a has been. You're broke. You're going nowhere. Your life." I began speaking those things. And by speaking those things, I created those things and slipped into a catatonic depression. I don't remember at least 6 months of 2002. Anyway, a God I didn't know and that I wasn't looking for. I literally had a series of supernatural encounters where a God that I didn't know and wasn't looking for basically said, "I got plans and I got purposes for you. And this is where hope and courage comes from. God himself said to me, I want you to give hope and courage to those that have lost it and don't know where to find it. But you'll never touch their hurting hearts if you've never felt their kind of pain, which is why I let you go through what I let you go through. I want you to use all of that to reach the hurting ones now and give them a hand up and give them a lift out." And the last 20 years of my life have been all about that.
Wow, that is a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there's a big story in there, but that's the Cole's Notes version of it, and it's been a journey, and there's been hills and valleys, and I've been learning things, and but at the end of the day, I've got pastors now calling me their pastor, and that to me is just mind blowing. I've never been to seminary, but I just began. I'm not into religion. Okay, I want to be very clear about this. Religion to me, and this is my definition. I don't want to impose this on you, but when I think of religion, I think of a set of man-made dogmas created by men, used to control other men in the name of God, and doing nothing more than making God look bad. Okay, but I've had a series of encounters over the last 20 years with a real loving God who's not into religion, he's into relationship. And if you'll talk to him, he'll talk to you. The Bible puts it this way: if you'll draw near to me, I'll draw near to you. Let's just keep it really simple. If you'll talk to me, I'll talk to you. In fact, I'm talking to you. You're just so busy, you're not hearing me. Slow down, give me your ear, tell me you want to know me, and I'll show myself to you. That's the real God.
And that is the truth.
That is the truth.
That is the truth. We don't slow down enough. We don't stop talking. We don't stop doing. We don't stop nothing. We just think, no, stop and ask.
Well, I put it like this: we spend a lot of time, especially COVID now. We're spending so much time in front of our computers, right? If you got too many applications, so you got Word open, you got your email open, you got about 10 browsers in Firefox or Chrome or whatever you're using. If you got too many your computer just grinds to a halt, right? It gets really slow. Close the files and the whole thing speeds up. And so what God is saying today is close a few files and let me talk to you.
Yeah. So you have been, I'll say, very vocal about your faith
Sure.
and bold. You've shared on many platforms, as you had discussed a few of them earlier. Do you bring that boldness of your faith into your workplace, like your conferences? Do you drip on people slowly? You know what I mean? Like just slight mentions, because you are you tell that story right away. People go, whoa,
yeah,
right? I find I drip on people, and it's like you'll know I'm a Christian if I but you're very bold. So I ask you the question, do you bring that into your workplace, or do you just slowly drip on people?
All of the above. All of the above. Listen, everything has a context attached to it. Like I wouldn't walk into a Chamber of Commerce meeting and say, you got to be, I wouldn't say that to anybody anyway. But the conversations unfold and people look at you and say, well, that's an interesting thing that you just said. I said, well, what did you find interesting? Well, you used this word. And I said, well, you want to know what it means? Like, I'll give you an example. Okay. So I was over at the grocery store a couple of days ago, and and I make sure they see me smiling. I really make sure they see me smiling, right? Everybody's all banged up. You want to make a difference in this world? Just be the one that everybody sees smiling when everybody else is all busy in their head, oppressed, and all the other things. You want to be salt and light. Why don't you just start with a smile, man? Let them see it. And so anyway, the cashier had said something like, wow, it's nice to see someone smiling. And I said, yeah. She goes, so how are you? I said, I'm dynamite. She goes, wow, I never heard something like that before. And I go, well, do you know what it means? And she goes, yeah, it means you're explosive. I go, well, that's one definition. I said, but you want to know what the word, where that explosive really comes from? She goes, sure. I said, it actually comes from the original word dunamis, which means being filled with the power of God so that you can do things you'd never be able to do on your own. She goes, man, I want that. I said, you can have it. And that's a conversation. So yes, I carry this everywhere I go, but I don't, it's not like I'm going to push it in their face, right? Go back to Newton's third law of physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you start pushing stuff on people that they're not ready for, they're just going to push back. So I'm not out there pushing it, but I'm looking for little opportunities to drop things, So I'll say things like in our training program, I'll say, one of my favorite books, it says that the truth will set you free. I said, but when it comes to selling, there are 3 truths that will absolutely set you on the path to profitability. Let me share them with you. In the break, what was that whole thing about truth and free? And I said, oh, you want to know what I mean? So they'll come and they'll ask. So I drop seeds, and then if they come but they got to pull it from me. I don't push it on them. Now, obviously, if I've been asked to come to a conference and speak on the subject of how I came to faith, I will tell that story because that's what I've been asked to do.
Right.
Or I'll drop a seed and then somebody will plant a question or seed a question into it. And I say, well, do you really want the answer to that? And they go, yeah, I do. And then so I allow them to allow me the opportunity to bring it to them. So I'm bold about what I believe, but I'm not forceful with it, if that makes sense.
Yep. There's a book I'm reading right now with a group, and it's called Workplace Grace. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's just you have to meet them where they are. If they're not ready, then you back up.
Yeah.
And they'll come to you when they're ready. So that's a great comment.
Well, for those of us that are that are of a Christian faith here and believers, let's use that word, okay, for anybody listening.
Or seekers.
One of the one of the greatest things that I've discovered is, especially today, we're always surrounded by people that have some challenge. Oh, my mother-in-law's got this, or my wife's dealing with that, or my son's doing this, or my son's doing that, and you can hear that they're in a place of distress. Now, I just use natural language, and I just say something like, "Oh man, I wish I could take that from you." Would you be? And you use language that's natural. So for me, it would be a very natural thing for me to look somebody and say, "Hey, would you be cool if I prayed for you?" Because that's kind of my language. Hey, would you be cool if I prayed for you? And I don't make it religious, and I use a soft, inviting tone. Hey, would you be cool if I prayed for you? And they go, "You'd do that?" And I said, "Of course I'd do that." And then you pray for them, and then because the Holy Spirit's involved in this, all of a sudden they feel touched and they're blown away by what just happened. Not because I got religious about it. Because but listen, remember how did this conversation between you and I start? What is the key to a conversation, whether you agree? Just go in with insatiable curiosity and just suspend your assumptions. So suspend the assumption that they don't want you to pray for them. If you say, hey, can I pray for you? And you get all religious, they don't want that. But if man, I wish I could take that away from you. Would you be cool if I prayed for you? And they go, you would do that? And I go, of course I would do that. And then now they've invited you into their world. And so these are just little ways that we can bring our faith without being obnoxious about it.
You really are the word guy. That is great. So we're going to talk a little bit about Leader Impact.
Yeah.
And Leader Impact is dedicated to leaders having a lasting impact. And I can see that in you, that when people meet you, I believe you have an impact. You have an impact on me. So as you continue to move through your journey, have you considered what you want your faith legacy to be when you leave this world? That's a pretty loaded question. I don't know if you've ever thought of when you leave. What do you want?
Faith legacy. I've always, listen, at the end of the day, the only thing that I got left when I leave this planet is the reputation I leave behind. At the end of the day, the clothes will rot. I'll be in a box or burnt up or whatever happens, at that on the day of that final breath, and then the spirit goes off, right? Listen. There's a guy that lived his life with truth, trust, and integrity. There's a guy that lived his life with integrity. He was never for sale. He didn't compromise on what he believed. It didn't mean he was always right, but if he believed he was right, he wouldn't compromise on it. But he was always open to being, to learn if he was incorrect. And I would say the same thing. I think that's what I would want my faith legacy to be. And that's what I'm discovering now, in this role as a pastor of a church now, which we've planted. We're not into religion in there. We're really about teaching people how to live a victorious life. If Jesus said you can tell that disease to go, let's learn how to do that. And so it's just like in my sales training business. I want to make sure that people know how to do the things that they're able to do, give them the coaching, give them the training so that they can empower themselves with these fundamental truths and principles. I apply that to leadership, I apply that to sales, but I also apply that to faith. Either the word is true or the word is not true. I've chosen to believe that it's true, and because I've chosen to believe that it's true, I speak that it's true, and because I speak that it's true, I now see that it's true. I've actually seen the fruit of it, to go back to that earlier comment. And so on my last day, if there's a bunch of people still around that I would manage to have some kind of interaction with them, that guy helped me rise up and live a better life. That's what I want to be known for.
That's amazing. Thank you, Howard, for sharing that. I usually end with one of my last questions is, what brings you the greatest joy in life today?
It's exactly that. It is, honestly, it's exactly that. Knowing that somebody was profoundly and positively impacted because we were fortunate enough to intersect each other's circles. That's honestly, and I'm not being trite or anything about that. That's the thing that gives me the greatest joy. I've got email folders full of things, and I go back and I read them sometimes, and it brings me to tears that I've been able to. We have fun. I have fun wherever I go. If it's not fun, I don't want to do it. But along the way, just knowing that I've had it, that I've been able to be used to have a positive impact on another human being's life. That is really the thing that gives me the greatest joy. I love riding that motorcycle. I love hanging out with the dog. I love cooking with my wife. I love all of those things. But the one thing that trumps it all is knowing that someone's life is better because we had a few moments to spend together.
Yeah. You, as a leader, made an impact. How awesome is that to end on that note?
Wow.
Howard, we pulled that off. Thank you for spending the last over 45 minutes with us, Howard. You've inspired me. You've made an impact on me. I will leave enlightened, and I'm sure our listeners and some of our viewers, if you're watching us, video or audio file, thank you. It was just so nice to have this time with you.
Well, I've been looking forward. Thank you. It's first of all, it's been an honor to come and hang out with you too, and to do this podcast with you. I mean, I love you personally, I love you professionally, and I love you through a camera. So thank you for inviting me onto the show.
All right. Well, thank you, Howard. You just made my day. All right. Well, we're going to close here. I'll give a couple messages, but here we go. So Leader Impact is a global movement dedicated to leaders having a lasting impact. And we believe that true impact occurs when your personal, professional, and spiritual life is fully engaged. We have a network in over 350 cities around the globe. We host live and virtual events throughout the year and have a growing network of peer groups that meet weekly across these cities. Our podcast is just one of the ways to help you accelerate your growth as a leader. We hope you enjoyed meeting Howard Olsen of High Output Sales Training as much as I did. And you can find him at www.high-output.com. Now, if you're part of Leader Impact, you can always discuss or share this wisdom with your group. And if you are not yet in Leader Impact Group, we would love to have you. So check out our groups available in your area at leaderimpact.ca or get in touch with us and we will connect you. Stay in touch with our newsletter at leaderimpact.ca or on social media. And remember, impact starts with you.